that there is a thing called the Great Awakening that's up right now. The Great Awakening. We're waiting for it. We're waiting for the Great Awakening. And we don't know what it's going to look like. But the whole reference to the Great Awakening that we were given back, it was something that was from the period just before the revolution. Isn't that interesting? So let's go back to boiling water. You can get it up to 180 degrees. In other words, you can get the form of water fixing to boil by getting it up to 180 degrees Fahrenheit. But it requires more. It requires a lot more calories of heat to pump in and pump in and pump in. And then you have your rolling boil. So it's not enough, by way of analogy, it's not enough to have your great awakening, to just have a lot of information. Okay, let's find out that, I don't know, the CIA and Lyndon Johnson had to do with JFK's assassination. That's going to wake people up. No, it's not. It's just going to give them some more information. Let's say they find out about 9/11 and the whole thing about weapons of mass destruction was a certain thing, or Stinger missiles that were sold by the Secretary of State in 2010 or 12, sold Stinger missiles to or 13, whatever year that was, sold them to people in Afghanistan or the ISIS or whomever that was, and they shot down the SEAL Team 6 with the Stinger missile. And so that there's this stuff where you start to find out some political intrigue, which I suggest you go find that in other places. I don't want to get into it, because all I would do is do a half-baked or even a quarter-baked version of some of the excellent and fantastic, mind-boggling research that's been done by others. But I'm going to keep on going. So in the end, it's an individual that goes through this awakening. An individual wakes up. My experience of waking up in a great awakening, I don't mean to, I can't stand it when people say that they're enlightened or that they're awake up, because I'm not, and nobody is. I don't even want to hear those words pass my lips. That's nothing like that is going on here. Never has gone on. But I have had moments. There were times when I definitely had something that grabbed me, something that felt like it woke me up. One time was, and it was frightening. Okay, it was frightening. My wife and I, my ex, we were trying to figure out how to do this birth thing. We're going to have my son. This is back in '98, I guess it was, or so. And she was pregnant, and how are we going to have the baby? And well, we're going to get a midwife, and we're going to have the baby at this apartment. We were in Boulder at the time, Boulder, Colorado, and we're going to have the baby there in the apartment. And anyway, I had a bad interaction with the enlightened midwife. I'll spare you that. I think it's a fascinating story. I love telling it, but I'm not going to tell it here. And so we go to bed that night, and we're sort of, she found this book from some friend or whatever, and it was called Unassisted Home Birth. Now, we had no desire to just hang out at home and have the baby with nobody around. But because of this bad interaction with the midwife and a prior interaction we had when my daughter was born, which was also a negative interaction with the midwife, I blame the midwife for certain things that didn't go the way I wish they had. And my wife and I at the time, we agreed on it. And so we wanted to, we were open to this book. So we read the book by Laura Shanley, Unassisted Home Birth, I think is the name of it. And she described the process of just having the baby by yourself at home. The husband is there, or not. Laura Shanley actually had a baby by herself. I mean, completely and absolutely all by herself, just to see what it would be like as an experience. She had I think she had like 4 or 5 kids. I think. It was just 4. That's the way she did it. And all I could tell you is it doesn't sound very dramatic here, but as we read the book, and we read it straight through from about, I don't know, 11 o'clock at night, and I think we finished it off at like 2:30 or something like that. We were jacked, because why? So, number one, her logic was undeniable. The logic of having a baby at home was undeniable without any assistance. I mean, it's only happened several billion times on planet Earth where some woman has a baby and there's not some guy there with monitors and tubes and vials and syringes and drugs and, what do they call them? The spinal thing. Where they, anyway, there's no pain control issues other than the woman's mind, her body, and she just deals with it. The lady just deals with it. I mean, it's insane to even say it. I mean, shit, the whole animal kingdom does this. They just deal with it. You're having a baby. I don't care if it feels like a bowling ball coming through. I don't care if it feels like the Empire State Building coming through. It's been done a few times, and the body is built for this. It's just that simple, okay? That becomes an enlightening concept. We're built for this. Now, I'm the guy, and my wife is the lady. She's the one that's going to deal with this bowling ball issue. She's the one that's going to pass the Empire State Building or deal with all the problems. But either way, how would I deal with it? I don't know. I mean, I can only give her kudos for saying, I'm up for it. I'm up for it. Maybe she's a little crazy, whatever it was. I'm up for it. And the book by Laura Shanley was so provocative and actually inspiring that it really caused a wake up. I would say not a great awakening, because a great awakening refers to numbers of people in a population. But I personally said, yeah, why not? Why not? I can do it if you can do it. And like I said, I'm not the lady involved, but there is a certain sense of responsibility. You have to take responsibility for certain issues. Like, wow, what if the kid comes out with an open spine? Or what if the kid comes out with some sort of weird head? Or what if the kid comes out and they need machinery? What if she hemorrhages and she's going to, all the many, many, many disaster stories that you theoretically are leaving yourself open to. That's like this acceptance of death. And you just say to yourself, it's been done before. I know we're built for it. It's a moment of faith. It's a moment of courage. It's also a moment of accepting death. Okay, faith in what probably can happen. Faith is saying, it's not here yet, but I believe it will be, and it'll be okay. Okay, that's what I'm proceeding with that. I'm not on a crapshoot here. I'm having confidence and faith in the fact that a human body is built a certain way. She has faith and confidence in that. She relies on my ability to show up for whatever my task is, and I count on her ability to come forward, and both of us with a lot of forgiveness that who knows how this is going to go. So we did the unassisted home birth, and number one, it happened a month early. Anyway, that's a whole other issue. I love talking about the story because it was kind of uncanny. But that night, reading about the by the way, it went perfectly well. It was easy. It was far, far easier than the midwife. And it was so easy, I'm almost embarrassed to talk about it when we're talking about births with people who have gone through the typical hospital experience. I almost don't want to talk about the birth of our son because it's just too friggin' easy. And we get so much ire from people. Whenever that comes up and I talk about it, it's like, that's so irresponsible. Do you know what could have happened? It could have been so disastrous. Well, I'm telling the story because that's where we are now. That's where we are, I think, as a nation in terms of the Great Awakening. And part of the reason I'm making the video is because again, it's Easter week. We're headed into the what for some would be the resurrection from the dead. And the question remains in people's minds, how are we going to get there? What is this resurrection from the dead? The dead meaning the end of Americana as we knew it. You know, right now, there really is a lot of messy stuff going on with the breakdown of language, the breakdown of meaning, the radical division between different groups of people that can no longer hear or discuss anything with each other. That's all over. You really, I don't mean to sound apocalyptic, but for the most part, children cannot relate or talk to their parents. Parents cannot relate or understand their children. And you're going to say, oh, it's always been this way. No, bullshit. It's not been this way. Okay? It's not been this way. This is again manufactured. The human race did not go forward by having the proverbial generation gap. That's an invention of market masters in Wall Street or on Madison Avenue to sell us crap. They have done the research and they realize that selling people stuff is easier if you isolate them. If you isolate women from their men, they're going to buy more stuff. If you isolate men from their women, they're going to buy more stuff. Not as much as women, but they will buy more stuff. You isolate children from their parents, they're going to buy more stuff. That's why this isolation, it's invented because the human experiment could not have gotten where it got in terms of farming, agriculture, the hard work, the cooperation of communities, surviving in various instances. That even going into, let's say, native peoples, there's no way that they could afford to have the proverbial generation gap. No, they needed braves that, or the young ones, the neophytes, needed to look up to elders, needed to look up to people with experience and knowledge and say, how did you do that? How should I do that? If I do it this way. And then the elder has the wisdom, the patience, and the love of the continuity of a generation to say, this is how we make a bow, this is how we do this is how we start fires, or whatever that thing is. We're out of touch with all that. And so it is absolutely a modern, urban, suburban luxury we have to have all this wild-eyed and insane individuality that's just off the chart. This individuality makes cooperation almost impossible. And we are now to the point with the pronoun business of not even being able to talk one person to another without having to understand what's your rule book. We can't go according to common rules. We have to say, what's your rule book? What's my, and this is my rule book. And for us to talk, you have to learn my rule book and I have to learn your rule book. And then maybe we can talk, and surely we're going to have some boundaries so that we don't step on each other's toes and make each other upset. This is absolutely a formula for breakdown, chaos, and ruination, because information, knowledge, a loose understanding of what love means as an intergenerational legacies that go forward and backward, and care and tolerance and all these things, cooperation, compassion. These are things that have to happen, or human society can't go anywhere. So those conflicts that we're experiencing right now across the board, they're everywhere. No matter where you look, there's a conflict. They're all artificially induced. This isn't that humans are a certain way. Now, that's another piece of the story that was invented by others, and it's not true. So we're in a situation to where we're stuck and we're stalled and we're looking for an awakening. What does it require? It requires information. You have to find out where we really are. Why do we have conflicts? What does it mean to be across the aisle? What is across the aisle? What is on my side of the aisle? And then how do I really feel about this stuff? Do I really feel good about the thing? Do I feel like I can participate? Or, as I said in the Easter Ascendancy video, do I feel empowered? Of course not. Of course I don't feel empowered. Nothing in the society wants you to be empowered. I'll say it again. Nothing and no one, not even a family, really wants their child empowered. Now, you go back to a tribe, and I talk about empowerment. It behooves people in a tribal setting to empower those that are younger. It does not behoove them to cut them down or cut, now it behooves them to test the younger ones so that they go through a certain gauntlet of strength testing to get to a point of true empowerment. Because when you're confronted with the real deal, whether it's, I don't know what, fighting the jaguar, the bear, or surviving starvation, you want people who have their heads glued on and that they have all of their cylinders engaged and they're able to think clearly about what and where and who and why. So that's called information. That's not the Great Awakening. We're dealing with a moment here to where we have to wake up to the information of how we have been artificially disempowered across the board, and pronouns aren't going to help. We've been artificially disempowered, and to just recognize that it happened, to set with it, but then there will be a moment to where the boiling point has to be reached, and it's going to be an addition of stresses or traumas, like in my case with the birth situation. What was it? I think it was, if I try to put it in a phrase, it's the knowledge, deep knowledge, finally, that we were built for this. Having a baby by ourselves. I don't have to invite the hospital in. I don't have to invite the doctor in. It's not necessarily responsible or even logical to invite in the hospital or the doctor. That was a moment that I came to that woke me up. And we are in that situation in terms of realizing, and I'm not there. I'm not there yet, but I do think, and I'm actually say this with some fear, that we will have to get to where you don't have to invite a government in to help organize you. You don't have to have a team of experts figuring out your food situation or your water situation. You do require some courage and some strength, and that when the awakening happens, the Great Awakening, individually, it's going to happen individually, where an individual says, like I know right now, that if I took, let's say, the idea of food shortages seriously, if I took the idea of a food shortage seriously, I would get chickens. I don't have chickens. I would get chickens. Why? Because chickens make food. I mean, chickens are great little machines, aren't they? They peck around in the yard, they eat worms, and they kick out eggs. I mean, I can't eat, well, put it this way. I don't want to eat worms. I don't want to peck in the ground. It's probably not going to go well with my digestion. However, eggs are another matter. I can handle eggs, and it's like the perfect food. So I can get a machine for just nickels. They don't cost much to get a chicken, and they're not hard to feed. There's ways to feed chickens. Why don't I do it? It's because I'm not awake. That's simply the reason. That's the reason I'm not getting chickens. I mean, this is me talking. I'm not saying everybody needs to run out and get chickens. Everybody has to define their own parameters for awakeness. But I don't get chickens because I am not awake. And so let me end it there. I'm going to try to create a cap statement for this. We're headed into a season of challenge, a season to where we will be tested. We have to know, as part of the awakening, that we are built for this. We're built for the season of testing, to enjoy it, to learn to like it, to learn to find an increased sense of vitality, meaning, and purpose in the test. Not fear, not shrinking back, but actually rising to that moment, and then being awake for sources of solutions. Don't break down. Don't fall down weeping, as I do sometimes when I'm trying to fix my plumbing. Don't just fall down weeping that I can't get the friggin' thing off the sink, or why won't it? You're built for this. You can do it, Phil. You can do it. You can get that thing removed. It's been done before. A lot of times, a lot of people replace their sinks. A lot of people deal with washers and leaks. You can do it. Rise to the occasion. Culturally and civilizationally, we have to get to where, yes, we can do this thing. We're built for it. We've always been built for it. We've been artificially told that we cannot do it. Just like I've got an artificial dependency on food supplies, which keep me from thinking chickens, keeps me from, I have an artificial dependency, or convenient modern dependency on plumbers. Plumbers are great. I love plumbers. I worship plumbers. When they show up, every time I tell them, this gives the word avatar new meaning. Avatar meaning the Savior from on high. I love it when plumbers save me from me being underneath the sink. I love saviors. But there are times, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, plumber can't show up, water's squirting off all over the place in the house because something busted, and you just got to stay glued together. All that happens if I fall down weeping is that water piles up in the house. And if there's no plumber to come, I have to figure it out, whether it's to catch it all with buckets or wrap it in rags or get some tape or something. It has to be dealt with, or just grim resignation. I will be in 6 inches of water by morning time when somebody can show up. Those are the kinds of issues I have to deal with. And that is an individual awakening. And I'm going to say that if we can go through this collectively, if more and more people, now it depends on the individuals, if we address these weaknesses in ourselves, these places where we're artificially disempowered, artificially disabled to act in an empowered way, and we just take a small step to overcome that somehow, I would say we will experience the Great Awakening. How's that? All right?